topic today is the Mexican independence, and of course, we're going to start the story with the famous legend of the initial phase of the independence movement from 1810 until 1811, and of course, it's the famous story of the literary club of Father Hidalgo, where the plotters are going to get together in the house of Corregidora Doña Josefa Ortiz de Dominguez, and among them we know to be Father Hidalgo, Ignacio Allende, Juan de Aldama, Miguel Domínguez, Mario Galván, y Epigmenio González. And as you already know, this literary club is going to be an opportunity to debate the political matters. And actually, the independence movement was planned to set up by the end of the year, but they have to alter their plans because Marino Galvan had betrayed them, and he leaked the news to his superior that they were making some kind of plot against the government of Spain. So, as a result, the Spanish troops they're going to search the house of Epigmenio González, where they're going to find weapons. And with this news, Father Hidalgo had no other option than to hurry up with the independence, and he's going to make the famous Grito de Dolores when he's going to shout the necessity for creation of a new country. Um, the amazing point of the Grito de Dolores is that it's going to attract a lot of popular support. Many Indians and mestizos, not only criollos, are going to be attracted by his slogans and are going to join the independence movement. It is very important to understand that the Mexican independence movement, uh, just like independence movement in most Latin American countries, it was started by the rich people, by criollos, by conservatives. The main discontent that they had was that the Spain was conquered by Napoleon Bonaparte, and he had left his brother Joseph in power, uh, and thus the French were known to be liberal, they were known to be anti-clerical, and of course both Spaniards as much as the rich people in colonies they resented the presence of Napoleon's brothers, and that's why it's going to be one of the causes for the independence movement. It's very different, for example, from American independence. It's also very different from, for example, the French Revolution itself. It's also important to underline, for example, the influence of Bourbonic reforms. Those late intents of Spanish government to establish a tighter control over colonies and to make um, like the process of administration more efficient, but thinking in efficiency for the benefit of Spain, not for the benefit of colonies itself. That is also going to anger uh, the criollos who were dominating the life in Mexico. And finally, the last thing that criollos really didn't like was this disparity, difference between peninsulares, who were the Spaniards born in Spain, and criollos, who were born in colonies but with Spanish parents. So, going back to our story of the initial uprising, so Grito de Dolores is going to win huge popular support. Soon, Father Hidalgo is going to amass a huge army and it's going to approach the city of Guanajuato. And Guanajuato is going to be like a very important point for Father Hidalgo because when this huge mob is going to take the city, they really do not see much difference between Spaniards, criollos, or just like middle class people. They're going to destroy everything on their way. And the famous take, for example, the famous fight for the Alhóndiga de Granaditas, where some Spaniards are going to be hiding, is going to be like one of these moments when he's going to see how destructive and how fearsome this independence fight could be. So after taking Guanajuato and several more cities, um, Hidalgo and his army is going to approach Mexico City. But given the previous experience, he feared that once again the mob is going to kill everyone and everything on its way. So he's going to delay the attack. As a result, this moment is going to be taken by advantage by Felix Calleja, who was a Spanish general, and he's going to create his counteroffensive. And with the precise attack, he's going to be very efficient in dispersing and defeating the army of insurgents. Um, the leaders are going to get captured. As you already know, they're going to be beheaded and their heads are going to be exposed on the corners of Alhóndiga de Granaditas. And Father Hidalgo himself, he had to stand the office of Inquisition in order to be removed from the clergy title and eventually also executed. Um, from this moment, the revolution is going to change. We have a small decline of fighting. It's no longer a huge army that is going to be fight, but rather small, very formed armies led by insurgents. Also, the criollos who got alarmed by this radical twist of the revolution, they are going to abandon it, and as a result, the revolution is going to lose some supporters. So we have the appearance of Father Morelos as one of the main leaders of rebels. And you already know that in Congress in Chilpancingo, they're going to make the formal declaration of independence and make a constitution. But once again, Felix Calleja is going to make his offensive. As a result, they had to flee. And they're going to escape to Apatzingan, where they
It seemed like the fighting almost comes to an end. We have two important guerrilleros who are going to be Guadalupe Victoria with his army of 2,000 people and Vicente Guerrero with about 1,000 who are going to be the center and south of Mexico. But the fighting is going to be increasingly um, like ceasing. You may see that 3,000 men, it's practically very small army even for guerrilla. So practically the viceroy felt that the rebellion was finally ending and that the peace is going to be possible to achieve. The problem is that viceroy troops they are going to become increasingly demoralized because they're going to be fighting with civilians mostly, not with the regular army. But the vice king or viceroy was so sure that he's going to win that he's going to offer an indulto or pardon for all those uh, rebels who were still fighting. And this is when the revolution is going to change. It's have a twist once again. We're talking about 1821, 11 years after the revolution had started. So we have a new situation. First of all, many South American countries and Caribbean, some of them have declared their independences, others had already achieved their independence. Also, in case of Spain, after Napoleon was defeated, it seemed like the Spain is going to become once again the conservative monarchy, but it doesn't happen. Instead of this, we have a liberal constitution of 1812 that is going to give sovereignty to the people. It's mildly anti-clerical, and it even has its Bill of Rights. Of course, the conservatives of Latin America and Mexico, they were very disappointed by this new constitution. So we have the appearance of a new participant that, of course, I'm talking about Agustin de Iturbide. He was a criollo born in Valladolid of conservative Spanish parents, and he was fighting on the side of the Spaniard against the rebels, when he finally is going to see an opportunity both for himself and for the country, and he's going to, instead of fighting and persecuting Vicente Guerrero, he's going to join his forces with him. And there is the famous hug of Acantempan, when the two leaders, they're going to meet and they're going to hug each other, representing this unity and the change of Iturbide. In 21, Iturbide is going to make his plan of Iguala, which is one of the most outstanding documents of this period, and it's going to be having three major guarantees. First of all, the independent Mexico is going to become a constitutional monarchy, once again monarchy, not a republic. Secondly, the only religion that is going to be allowed in the newly independent country is going to be Roman Catholicism. But what is going to be promulgated is the equality of, most importantly, criollos and peninsulares. So, as you may see, this document is completely conservative in an essence, and like the most important points, like the monarchy, the Catholicism, like they're going to be taken here. So as a result, with the win of Iturbide, we have to sign the Treaty of Cordoba. That is going to be basically the Spain is going to accept its defeat, and the newly appointed Viceroy Juan O'Donoghue is going to accept the Mexican independence. After this, we have the period of the First Mexican Empire, and guess who is going to become emperor? Obviously, Agustin de Iturbide. And they talk about exultant spectacle, or like a great parade that Iturbide is going to make returning to the Mexico City. He's going to proclaim himself the emperor, and it's going to be like very, very pompous, and everything is going to be so splendorous. The problem is that Iturbide was not able to deal with the problems of an enormous country that stretched from almost the middle of today's United States up to like Caribbean, and there's going to be a lot of problems that he's not going to be able to address, and as a result, he's going to be he will abdicate and exile and leave the territory of Mexico. A few years later, he's going to try to return to Mexico, but there was an order of his execution, and even though he believed they were not going to do this, he eventually was executed when he landed in Tamaulipas. So from 1924 and on, we have the period known as the Mexican Republic, though it's not particularly a republic, and let me tell you why. In 1824, we have a new. Well, first of all, before this, sorry, after the retreat of Iturbide, we have a government that was a triumvirate, or in other words, it was the government of three people. It was Bravo, Victoria, and Negrete. But already from this moment, we have a conflict between liberals and conservatives, or as in Mexico they called them, between federalists and centralists. The liberals, they were mostly liberal criollos, mestizos, and all intellectuals. Meanwhile, the conservatives, they were clergy, rich hacendados, and some leaders of the army. So in 1824, we have a liberal constitution that is really not completely liberal. On paper, the country is divided. Its territory is divided into a local state, and the powers are separated. Like separated in the three branches, so that none of them is going to be dominated. But at the same time, the only religion that is allowed is continue being Catholicism, and in times of emergency, the executive power is going to be able to act as a dictatorship. They're going to have emergency powers. And finally, both church and the army, they are going to be they're going to have fueros, which basically means that they are not going to be persecute them using the civil trials. So they're going to be above uh, above those trials. So very briefly, this was like the explanation of the independence movement in Mexico and the beginning of the Mexican Republic.